Welcome to the Contractor Sales Academy podcast. I don't know why I went with like sports announcer voice there or something. It was kind of weird. But anyway, here we are. Guys, we're going to talk today about people who answer your telephone and how important that is. I know that there's a lot of contractors out there that their team is big enough. Maybe they're running sales calls, they're working in the field, whatever. They got somebody at home, an office manager back in the office. They're answering the phone. They're scheduling appointments for their salespeople, and then the salespeople are running out there and not selling the jobs because they're wasting their time with unicorns, tire kickers, or whatever we want to call them. And so I thought, actually, Steve, this is your idea. You were like, hey, I think we need to address this and kind of give some advice on what to do, how to approach it when you have somebody that's manning those telephones and the phones are ringing off the hook. And I mean, Steve, you just said you're probably getting, 4 leads a day, 3-4 leads a day. And Derek, you're 4 or 5 a day, whatever it is combined. I mean, that's a lot of action with the phone ringing, plus all the other calls that come into a business, right? So it's tough I don't know about you guys, but I remember back in the day working in the field, my phone started ringing a lot. It could get pretty overwhelming. So what are some things that we could give people here today to help them be successful if their sales person or themselves is not necessarily answering the phone?
Yeah, so there's basically 2 or 3, maybe even 4 types of people that answer their phones. You might be like me, the owner, who answers my own phone, and boy, as soon as I say hello, it's game on. I can walk them through the whole shin fu, process, so I can figure out if we're going to be a good fit. Then on the other extreme, people that actually just hire an answering service. They don't really care, and they're just like there to take a message, and that's it. And you feel that. To me, I mean, we all call up these things, and you could tell when you're just getting I don't give a shit really about you answering service. So we're not even talking about those people because they're just order takers. They're just like, Mrs. Smith call her back. Yeah. And that's quite honestly frustrating to me. And then there's 2 levels in between that. It might be your spouse. A lot of times there's a husband and wife team, or spouse and spouse team. Somebody's running the inside and somebody's doing production on the outside, and they're just trying to gather information so the guy who's running production, when he gets home from work, he can then call the person up and hopefully not wasting their time. And then sometimes there's a virtual assistant that is a serious assistant and who's really trying to gather quality information to pass along to the ultimate salesperson in there. And that's who we want to address today, because sometimes, and Derek and I heard it on a phone call last week, that, hey, we're a gatekeeper, we're a serious gatekeeper, virtual assistant, but we don't really need to know all the 5 steps. We just want to gather enough information to pass it along to the owner. And I'm like, really? So let me just ask you 5 questions. Can I ask you 5 questions?
Sure.
So let's just say, Tom, you want, I don't know, a freaking kitchen renovated. I'm just picking something, right? And I'm a gatekeeper who gives a shit, okay? And you call me up and you say, hey, I want to get my kitchen renovated. That's why you're calling, to get some bids out, right? Figure out to start the process with somebody. So as a gatekeeper, I want to know what and why you want it. I do want to know that. Like, what do you want, Tom? I want a kitchen, right? Okay. How long have you been thinking about this? There's just a few questions. They're simple to do. Have you ever done anything about it so far? Why are you deciding right now to, just do this kitchen project? So you're just trying to figure out, with a little more depth of just what do you want, you're just trying to find out the motive behind it. Some of the whys, you don't got to go deep, but just some of the whys. So the owner has more intel. That makes sense?
Yep.
Question number 2 is, Tom, do you have a budget? for this kitchen?
Yeah, I'm thinking 30 grand or something.
Yeah. So, and I don't even care, but I gotta know just so the owner, and the other thing we have in our kitchens is we have two types of kitchens. We have really super off the chart high end kitchens. You probably seen them in Better Homes and Gardens. And then we have pretty much the everyday kitchen that somebody wants. Okay. So I got to know, see, we have 50,000 and below. One salesman, that's his forte.
Yep.
And for 35,000 or 50,000 and above, there's a whole nother salesman that goes in that direction. It's just, these are that diverse. And I got to know which salesman to pass off your information to. Does that make sense, Tom?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just giving everybody word tracks to kind of get to the money. Like, and that way, when the owner comes in, you give them a message, they go, well, okay, I got a budget of 35,000. It doesn't matter if you really have two salesmen or not. It's just a way to sort of go find out more information. So that's question number 2. Number 3, and Derek, I'm sorry. I know I'm hogging all the time here, but I just want to flow. Okay.
I'm learning. Keep flowing.
And number 3, the step is the truth. You just want to make sure that there's no BS going to go down. And then this is going to be probably a really hard one.
Yeah.
At first for gatekeepers, but they will get it. Okay. So, we've done it. Have you read our reviews?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the kitchens that we do online? They're really the serious, and you're talking about a $35,000 kitchen, although it's not one of these crazy, fancy kitchens that we have, but it's still serious money. So I'm just trying to find out, I guess, are you in the information gathering process, or are you kind of, if you find out you get the kitchen you want for 35K, are you in the let's pull the trigger stage, or where are you at in that?
Yeah, we're just getting information right now, and our kid's graduating next spring, and we want to start planning and budgeting for it.
Perfect. So you're calling it a year away, and
Yep.
that's perfect. You're doing exactly the right thing. So on a role play for a second, then I tell the owner, Tom is way upstream, man. They are just at the beginning phase, which is cool because there's a certain way you got to nurture that lead also, as opposed to I'm having a June graduation. I need it done in a month, right? So that's some good intel. And you see how I'm asking Tom some questions, and Tom's just pretty comfortably answering my questions. But I'm gathering more good information. So I know why he wants his kitchen. I know he's got $35,000, and I know that he's about a year away from the whole thing. And then, say I'm going to set up a call with the owner as soon as he comes back in. Tom, besides you, because I know, is there anybody else that's going to be using and operating this kitchen that has a heavy influence in the details of the kitchen besides you?
Steve, a woman's place is in the kitchen, man. So it's it ain't gonna be me using it.
So is it possible, and does it make sense that when we set up this phone call, that it's set up with the both of you?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's really her call.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter if it's still a year away. I want her in there, so that'd be awesome. Okay, and then I think we can gather a lot of stuff over the phone, like I've just done. I'm going to give it to the owner. He'll call you back up, and then if at that point he'll have a great conversation. If he needs an in-field consultation with you at the home, he'll explain any further details with you at that time. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Now, I didn't bring up a consultation because I just didn't feel it's my place to maybe do that. But it's okay if you have a standard consultation fee in a company to go, okay, if it's, let's say, a pond guy or a landscape job, and Derek, just so you know, Derek's gonna come out and talk to you, but he has a $150 or $200 design fee or consult fee to do, but it's, of course, you can roll that into any job that he does for you. It doesn't matter what size. So if you want him to call you back, great. If you want an in-field consultation, that's great too. And if you want the consultation, I'm ready with a credit card if you are. So,
right now we're good with just a phone call. I just want to have
Okay.
a conversation. So
good. So that's a company policy thing, but a lot of people do have, I know every appliance company I've ever hired in my home they want like 125 bucks credit card just to come out, and they apply it. They're just not running out to your house. And so it's pretty standard stuff. And that keeps everybody a little bit honest. But those are basically the 5 steps of a gatekeeper. So that gatekeeper is providing top level value to whoever's hiring her.
You know, before Derek taps in, hold on. What I wrote down here a minute ago, why this is so important, put yourself in the consumer's shoes. Okay. When you call a company, you don't have to have all your problems solved right now on that phone call or that first contact, but I know I want to feel like the ball is moving forward, you know, and I've checked a box. I've checked some sort of box, and I believe just making sure our people that answer the phones and stuff are coached up on this is really rooted in having a respect for the client's time. You know, so that's how I'm reading this. Everything you just shared with me, Steve, I'm thinking as a consumer, I would appreciate that, because if you add a step, right, if you just take information, pass it off to the sales guy, now as the consumer, now I got to wait. And I don't feel I've made any progress. And I also think it opens the door. It's been my experience through the years that sometimes once people connect with somebody and they feel they've made some progress, a lot of them stop shopping. You know, a lot of them stop making calls to get other bids and things like that if they had a good experience with you. So Derek, what are your thoughts on this, man?
The gatekeeper is really crucial. And whether you're your own personal gatekeeper, like Steve was referring to, is just as the owner answering the phone. And in the contracting business, it's very common to have 2 partners that work on this, a husband and wife team, a partnership team, you know, the spouse team. It's very common. So having these word tracks in play and how to use this stuff is huge. And one thing that I picked up on what Steve was saying, it's kind of taps into that assignment selling part, where if you get to that consulting phase and the person's just not sure, you can set that up like, have you gotten all the information that you need to have someone come out? Have you checked us out socially? Maybe let me give you a few things to check out. Look at our website, come by our display center, whatever it is, lead them to all those places, because it may not make sense to pay a $200 consulting fee for me to come see you if you don't have all the information yet. But if you need more information in person, more than happy to do that. It's just a couple of $100 for us to come out. So I think if you pose that, because I know a lot of people have an objection to that consulting fee. They confuse it with the estimating. So if you get to that point as a gatekeeper, it's great to go, let me make sure you have all the information you need, which is perfect for them. They can send them links to the website. They can send them videos. They can give them addresses, whatever it is. They can point them in the direction to get the needed information to make a buying decision or hire you for simple consulting.
Love that. You know, I think there's 2 parts here why it's also important. 2 things I wrote down. I'm curious what you guys think of why it's important that your gatekeeper is coached up. And the first the two things I wrote, which are kind of the same in a way, similar, it's tone and energy. You know, I want the first interaction somebody has with my company to be positive, rooted in gratitude. They have a lot of options of people they could call. And I've called a lot of companies. I've had periods in my business where I can't honestly say people had a great interaction the first time they interacted with our company. So that's one reason. And another thing I wrote down here, but I've coached so many contractors, and one of the big questions I get is, I got to hire a sales guy. I got all these leads coming in. I got to hire a sales guy. I got to hire a sales guy. Hiring a sales guy is one of the hardest things you can do, to really find somebody that's going to kick ass at it. And I think having this gatekeeper, if your phone's ringing off the damn hook, you got that gatekeeper who's doing that level 1 pre-qualifying and filtering. You will often find, I just had a conversation the other day with a guy, we worked through the math of this, and he was going to put, I'll spare all the boring details. He was only going to put about another 30 to 40 grand a year to his net profit if he brought on a sales guy with the plan that he had. And I said, well, what would it look like if you just got better at the foo, coached up the people that are already in your company to be better on the phone and pre-qualify and filter? You would be able to eliminate the commissions for that person, the salary, if you were going to pay them a salary. We work the math, and he's actually a guy who I remember I texted you guys the other day. I said, I got this painter that I've been talking to who's looking to jump in and do one of our full day workshops with us. That was the conversation that we had. So oftentimes it'll eliminate the need for another sales guy. Because guys, when you hire another sales guy, I mean, right now, guys, if Derek, if you wanted to hire a sales guy, you're going through 4 or 5 leads a day on your own.
Sure.
You better have 4 to 5 additional leads a day coming into the business for that other sales guy if he's going to make any money.
It's yes, and you're using me as the example because I'm actually at the job site today. I'm working with the team. We had one of our guys get hurt, so I had to come in and help out. And Travis just sold a $19,000 landscape job while he's working in the field.
Yep.
Working with the guys on the job. I'm managing my leads, and Travis is selling stuff in the field, and then Tommy and one of my other guys. Because we're all using the Shinfu process in our company, we're practicing together. Like, we legitimately use this stuff. So it's even as a gatekeeper for them, when you look at that aspect, they're trained up. Pretty much anybody on my team is trained up enough that they could answer a phone, go through the steps, and be a gatekeeper and sell a job. I think what's huge for gatekeepers too is what people don't realize. It's that low-hanging fruit, that those little service calls. You get them trained up on the service calls, man, you don't even have to mess with that. Your gatekeepers can handle those, $300,000, $400,000 things. It's just generalized stuff.
Well, both of you guys has been doing this a long time. I mean, Steve, last you and I had this conversation, your foreman in the field, technically, right? They pretty much year over year are responsible for between 25 and 30, 33, 35% of your annual revenue because they know how to sell. You know what I mean? They know how to upsell, and, you've trained them. And Derek, I know you've been training Travis and the guys and stuff like that. And I know it's not a gatekeeper thing, but the point here is that when you have a really good system that's proven like this, it eliminates the need to go hire additional salespeople, for the most part.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This whole podcast we do, the purpose of this podcast is to help people sell better. And the three of us believe the best goddamn place you can go learn how to sell better is join the bridge.
Yep.
The bridge costs $3,000 and it's a 3-month commitment to come to the bridge. Now, when you tell someone, I want you to pay $3,000 and commit your salesperson for 3 months, they go, holy shit, that's a lot of money. But I want you to ask yourself, if you're listening to me right now, literally, if you did latch on to the right real salesman and you actually didn't f them up like I f 1,000 people up by doing a job training them, if I really gave them the opportunity to truly learn to be a wordsmith and a true salesman, what would that $3,000 look on an ROI basis come a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? That salesperson is going to bring $3 million over their lifetime in the door, literally. And there's you mentioned something really good, Tom. It's not just every owner looks at a sales guy, how much can they make me? That's the wrong way to look at it. You got to go, how much does my salesman make? My salesperson, I want to make a ton of money, because the more money they make, the more money I make. So you got to look at it in their shoes. You got to train them up right. And I'm telling you now, if you sign them up for the in the bridge for that commitment for three months, you will make 100 times your money back. Especially if you try to strike every deal from your employee standpoint, you will die a very wealthy person, period. But if you're one of these owners who tries to squeeze them all for everything they're worth, you're just going to struggle the rest of your life and never build the team you want.
My experience has been a salesperson that's worth it. He ain't going to want to make less than 100 grand a year. You know what I mean?
Oh.
And then Steve, from, I know maybe you could talk to this if you want it. If not, that's fine. But because I think I'll make the point here. And anyone listening that's looking to sell a business, you don't want the bulk of the revenue coming into the business being on you as the owner, because if somebody comes and buys that business and other people don't know how to sell and bring revenue in, what's it really worth? So when other people are trained up to sell and they're making money and they're happy and satisfied and loyal and all that other shit, you actually have a business that's worth more too.
So to bring up an earlier point of Tom is my business, which I'm in the last year of being involved. I get one more check. I've been selling it off in chunks to my two top men. And our reoccurring revenues, our maintenance that roll in every year is a third of the business. Then for some of the big jobs, I sell a third of the business, but the other third comes from the upsells from my two men. They sell about $250,000 each while they're in the field. So 2/3 of my sales do not involve me one really at all. They're not directly anyways. So only 1/3 of my sales do. So if you're gearing up to sell your business, that's another thing. Like Tom says, you want your business to run by itself like a freaking McDonald's. You'll get the most money for it. Okay.
Yep. That's good shit. Other thoughts that are key for a gatekeeper. Let's kind of come full circle back to that and wrap up with that.
I think it's just
tone and
it's,
energy and all that other stuff. What else, Derek? Sorry, I cut you off.
it's just that system. It's just that it's anybody can do the Shinfu process we're doing in any aspect of the sales part of the business, whether it's gatekeeper, team member, owner. It's just it's a process. It's just following the process. They'll make it a little bit of their own. You know, they'll take and they'll put their style on it as long as they don't veer from the steps. And think of the people that you can help. So if your gatekeeper is now selling more business for you, he's keeping themselves employed. And then if you work out some sort of commission for them in the future, which I highly recommend as things progress, you know, give them a cut of what's going on. And then they're helping you, they're helping themselves. And then you build this culture. It all comes from basically, my thought is you've shared a vision, the vision of Shinfu, crazy as that sounds, with your people. Yeah. If they get on board with it and they follow it, everybody's on the same team and they're rowing in the same direction. And now you have a sales rudder that is bulletproof. But you got to go through these steps.
Derek, you brought up the word process. My mind immediately went to last December when the three of us and 50, 60 other people were at Dave Ramsey's headquarters down there in Nashville or whatever town it is.
Franklin, Nashville.
Franklin. And we sat there and we've all listened to his show before. We were sitting there watching him sit at his desk. The phone calls would come in. And to me, this is where it connects to the Shinfu. The first people go, what's your situation? I'm this much in debt. I'm blah, blah, blah. I make this much, yada, yada. The first thing out of Ramsey's mouth is, what baby step are you on? Okay. And he knew, because they had that shared language. Okay. Well, I'm not on any baby steps. He'd end the call pretty quick. He'd be like, hey, you got to do baby step one, which I think is like, bank $1,000 or whatever it is, for an emergency, whatever. Yeah. Okay.
They start at $500.
So to me, imagine this, Steve, I'm your gatekeeper. You come into the office, maybe you were working in the field, whatever. And I go, hey, here's, I filled out the Shinfu intake form here. Here's key points of the motive. This is the budget. And he's waiting for a call back and you got to pick it up at step 3. It's that shared language. That's the process. That's what I think is so cool about it. Steve, you had and you did this yourself because you handle your calls, but it was like 2 years ago. I think you sold a $50,000 job that took 4, 5, 6 weeks to sell because you couldn't get past whatever step because the husband traveled a lot. Do you remember that?
Yep, I remember exactly. I know the job. I know how I tracked him down because it was the lady. She just wanted me to do all this shit. I'm like, no. I need the other person, the husband. And I tracked him down on a Sunday. I called back on a Sunday and he happened to be in town. And when I got a hold of him, I was just straightforward. I said, look, you're a hard man to catch. You're here on a Sunday. I've been talking to your wife about all this stuff, but we're talking big money here. And I just don't want to waste anybody's time. And he was like, he said, Steve, I'm not messing around with the money. This is what we want. I'm like, so today's Sunday. Are you available? Yeah, I'm available. So if I come out there right now, I had to pick it up literally step 3 with the husband.
Yep.
And I swear I had 4 conversations and sets of pictures for the wife. I said, if I come out there and it's everything you want for 50 grand, what's going to happen next? He goes, I'm going to give you a deposit check. What I want this done because I'm going to, Bahrain tomorrow or wherever he was off to. And I'm like, okay. So I ran out there, got the money, and that was it. So it is a process that's shared amongst people. But I want to leave with kind of a totally different idea because you got three guys on this podcast because we all come at life from three different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to add my perspective on the gatekeepers because it's a very high level 10,000 foot view. So I got a question for both of you. Let's pretend you were someone super important. I'm just going to pick a name, Mark Cuban. Okay. You see him on the Shark Tank. You see him all over the news because he's actually shooting for president, if you can believe that. I'm talking about this year, president. So he's an important guy, right? So
yep.
If you want to talk to Mark Cuban or Warren Buffett or anybody else that's super important and super busy, who's the most important person you got to get through to get to that person?
The gatekeeper.
Go ahead, Derek.
Gatekeeper.
Yep.
Yeah, the gatekeeper. So if you're Mark Cuban, who's the most important person in your business planet to you?
The gatekeeper.
Gatekeeper.
Okay. Your life is dependent on that person only allowing the most quality people into your life. That's their job. Now, the problem is, if I'm the gatekeeper and I'm working for a Tom Reber or a Derek Johnson, that's not a Mark Cuban, I'm going to protect you like you're Mark Cuban. My job as a gatekeeper is to protect you because I am your biggest asset. I'm the one that's going to let the Walmart tire kickers get to you. That ain't good. I'm the one that's going to let the Nordstrom's people that want to pay $65 for a t-shirt get to you. That's pretty important. So as a gatekeeper, I got to believe I got the most important job on this planet as far as my boss is concerned. It is my job and my honor and my duty to only let quality people get to my boss. That's my thing. It's mindset. It's not just the process. It's the mindset of the gatekeeper. If they believe that they are in a very important, powerful position, then they'll accept this shin fu the way it's meant to be. But if they think they're just a freaking memo taker, then they won't. So their attitude, the very first thing Reber said to me 7, 8 years ago after I got off stage, he chased me down and said, Steve, the number one hardest thing to teach anybody is to change their attitude. And that single statement is A, why we're here today,
yep.
But B, the most truthful statement anybody's ever said to me. And the gatekeeper's no different. They are important people, but they got to believe they are themselves.
Steve, I love that analogy. A lot of listeners don't know. Obviously, you guys know. Steve's giving me 2 thumbs up right now. Yeah, he knocked it out of the park with that one. Good job, Steve. It reminds me of, I've been a high school football coach for a long time, and there's a rule in coaching that the number one job, and let me ask you guys, what do you think the number one job of the assistant coaches is? Of any sports team?
Well, they do all the actual work. They do all the blocking and tackling and the technique and all that stuff.
The number one, Derek, what do you say?
I just assume it's they protect the coach.
Protect the head coach. That is their number one job, because a head coach, like a business owner, right? You're working on higher level. You actually, as a head coach, you're not. There are days where as a football coach, I'm like, I would just schedule, I would go to my running backs coach and I'd go, today I'm running your drills for 10 minutes because I needed to coach football for 10 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm dealing with parents, I'm dealing with administration, I'm dealing with bus schedules and all this other bullshit. And I want guys to think of it that way, that your gatekeeper's job, just like Steve said, is to protect the head coach, so that the head coach could work on the culture, the leadership stuff, the training, the vision. Where were we going to take this thing in 3 to 5 to 10 years? and all those things. And so, Steve, I think you, I don't know how long you thought about that, but if it was right off the top of your head, great job. So either way, great job, because we're going to use that forever now, man, because I'd never heard you said that before.
I know when I call someone, literally, if they want a pond, in my heart, I know we produce the best of everything, not just the product, but the service and the back office and just all of it. Our experience for them is going to be second to none. So I believe I'm the most important pond phone call they're ever going to have. Now they might reject me, and normally they, 8 out of 10 do because of the money, because I'm the highest end guy there is out here. But I truly believe my spot on this planet is one of great importance. That's what I believe. And I attack it. I just go at it with that in mind. If everybody knows this, man. You know when someone walks into a party, and when they walk in with that positive energy, like you feel it. Sometimes everybody stops, they look and go, "Oh, this person's in there." You feel that radiance that just flows from them. That you just got to believe in yourself that you're the most important person, and not from an egotistical standpoint, but from a Picasso, on the baddest ass painter on the planet standpoint.
Yeah.
Okay. I take my craft with the serious nature, and you know what? I'm the top of the top.
So what would you think would happen to the average contractor if he embraced that mindset that, you know what, it takes a little bit to get to me. You know what I mean? Like the Mark Cubans, like Roz is my assistant. I'm certainly not Mark Cuban, but like, I remember there was a guy that wanted to come on our podcast, my other podcast, and he went through her. She screens people. We get requests all the time. And she came to me one day, and I didn't know anything about all the interactions. She's like, "Tom, this guy has reached out to me. He's been tenacious. He's been consistent. He's been polite. I checked him out like over a several month period." And she kind of blew him off in the beginning, not thinking it could be a good fit. Long story short is he kept showing up. He kept working the relationship with her. And eventually in one of our weekly meetings, she's like, "I really think you need to interview this guy." But I'm just sitting there going, what if the average contractor had that mindset that I'm not $100 a day or a $500 a day guy, I'm a $50,000 a day guy. And if you want to get Steve, if you want to get Derek, then you got to play by my rules and my process. What do you think the net result for the average contractor would be if he just took that approach?
Everybody likes a winner. When you walk with confidence, most of these athletic teams that kick the shit out of the other athletic team are the ones with the most confidence. Mm-hmm. They don't really have any more talent. They don't necessarily work any harder. I mean, on any given night, especially like in just take basketball, man, any team can kick the shit out of them because you show up with a whole different mindset. Mm-hmm.
I keep squirreling out here, guys, but all these stories from the past 6 years of our group here coming in mind. I forget who it was, but they damn near doubled their business because whoever was answering the phone in their office started taking those smaller projects and doing this over the phone, which freed up the owner to work on the big fish. And two things happened. He sold more of the big jobs, and they actually had a higher close rate on the small jobs because she had a great attitude on the phone about it. Whenever he had to go out and run one of these small job leads that he thought was going to be a pain in the ass, he just had this, I'm wasting my time for a $5,000 job or $3,000 job. So I just think there's mojo on both sides here that's at play.
And people like what they're good at. Yeah. So when you give them a process to follow, and they get these wins because now they have word tracks, and they feel important because they know how to handle those objections. And then once they feel important, and once they really start getting good at this, they really like their job even more. So that confidence and that attitude and that mindset can really, really be trained. Like if someone just follows what we're telling them to do and they go, "Oh, thank God, they just didn't rip me a new asshole. Perfect. I actually set that up, and I can actually follow through with this. And I can ask this other question. This totally works. And next thing we know, it's the owner goes out and does the job, but that gatekeeper really is the one that gets all the glory. And I work with one, a very, very high, I would say his name, and everybody would know who he is. His gatekeeper, his assistant, same thing. She controlled the whole conversation when we were negotiating in the beginning, and pretty much told him he was not going to spend as much money as he wanted to spend. Like, the power that she had, as I was standing there, I was like, I didn't like it because she took $100,000 away from me, but it was okay because she understood and knew how to control the situation. And we've actually doing more projects. But you take that type of person that's well-trained, well-versed, and the confidence like you guys are referring to, they make life easy for the owner and make life easier for themselves.
Love it. Final thoughts, Steve, close us out. What do you got?
It is a gatekeeper. You potentially have the most important job in the company. I mean, you're going to let the riffraff through. You're going to let the gold through. Your job is to recognize and let the gold through. So if you honestly believe you've got the most important job, you'll come off like that and you'll find more gold.
Well, good chat today, guys. If you're listening to this, share it with another contractor. Give us a rating wherever you're listening to it. You're ready to take your sales to the next level, head over to Contractor, www.contractorsalesacademy.com. Check out the bridge. If you've got, you want to move a little faster and get the three of us for a one-day workshop. We're doing a lot of these virtual workshops, things like that now. You can reach out to us through the website there as well on the contact form and tell us what you want. And we'll get on the phone with you, have a conversation, and see if it's a good fit. So you guys rock, and we will see you and talk to you all next time on the Contractor Sales Academy podcast.